Rivals of Aether is an easy game, technically speaking. And by technically, I mean the actual tech in Rivals of Aether compared to Melee and PM is easier in terms of the amount of inputs or timing required to pull off the same maneuvers. While it's very satisfying and cool looking, there is something lost in translation. The value of this tech is in some ways lessened because of how easy it is to pull off, combined with the fact that Rivals in many other situations does remove some of the intricacies of the options that would be available in Melee or PM. But the thing is, Rivals knows that. Rivals makes up for the lack of depth in some areas by adding depth in entirely new places. This is the key to Rivals' success as a competitive platform fighter. With such stiff competition, a game needs to either offer as much depth as its peers, or in Rivals' case, offer depth in a totally unique and creative way. An example of a game that does a lot of similar things to Rivals, but fails in that latter aspect, is Icon's Combat Arena. Sure, Icon's had a lot of technical issues which also contributed to its failure, but even if those issues didn't exist, at its core, there was still something fundamentally wrong. Icons made the tech of Melee and PM easier, as did Rivals, but it didn't offer anything to make up for what was lost. So what did Rivals do that Icons didn't? How does Rivals of Aether achieve depth through its characters? Despite being from small indie developers, Rivals actually has some advantages over Smash in terms of design freedom. Unlike most Smash games, Rivals is designed from the ground up to be a competitive fighter. Even PM, which was also designed to be competitive, still has ties to its characters' properties and legacies, which isn't a bad thing. But Rivals characters are original, and their design isn't dependent on how they represent the game they're from. Their design is instead determined by how they function in a competitive environment. Although Rivals does have 2 guest characters and is able to keep them competitive as well. But that's just it. They're guests. They're exceptions to the rule and not the main focus or draw of the game. Rivals has the freedom to make sure every character is made to follow the same core principles geared towards competitive play. And at the same time, the simplification of advanced tech from Melee and PM allows Rivals to get really wacky and push boundaries in terms of spectacle and creativity. I've identified 3 core principles that every Rivals character follows: movement, spatial resources, and mechanical synergy. These aren't the only aspects to Rivals character design. Of course, Rivals characters draw from a lot of the design archetypes that Smash pioneered. These are just the categories that every Rivals character has in common, and that commonality in design is what makes Rivals characters unique when compared to their Smash counterparts. I'm not trying to say Rivals has more or less depth than any other Smash game, and all the things I mentioned do appear in other games. Any comparisons I make are not meant to be negative. They're just made to highlight what the design of Rivals is accomplishing. Also, I'm not a developer. I understand the confusion, but I'm just a guy that makes videos. These core principles are not official, they're just my own personal observations. Okay? Let's dive in then. The very way a character is able to move around the stage directly affects that character's options. This is why wave dashing is important, but hey, that's another video. By default, every platform fighter character has a walk, run, at least 1 double jump, an air dodge, and usually some sort of vertical height gaining special move. Maybe also a horizontal one as well. In Smash's case, that's where the similarities in character design ends. Some characters have fundamentally unique movement options, but others barely have anything. But in Rivals, every single character has some form of movement option that is affected by their unique mechanics. Claren's grab gives her a double jump, Crag creates a platform, Sylvanas can burrow under the stage, and his grass increases the distance of his side special. Edalus's ice makes his dash attack travel extremely far, Rano's tongue can be used to slingshot him across stage. And you know what? There are a lot of characters in Rivals, and we'd be here all day if I had to list every single example of how these characters' mechanics work. So I'll just be listing a few that demonstrate the ideas, but you can trust me that these principles apply to everyone. So anyway, movement is cool and all, but how does this achieve depth? Well, movement is also important because it's the glue that binds your other options together. In platform fighters especially, combos are almost always strung together by different types of movement. The neutral game is greatly affected by where the characters can move and what space they can control because of that. And of course, movement options are a large part of how a character can recover and get back onto stage. Having more freedom in movement has a rippling effect that is felt throughout every aspect of the game. Since Rivals does homogenize many aspects of its characters, like jump squat, parry length, roll time, etc. They had to make other aspects of its characters more unique in order to maintain unique matchups. And since the intricate movement that came from Melee is largely simplified, Rivals uses these other means to make movement more complicated. Unique double jumps, special moves based on character state, spatial resources. Wait.
Right.
They almost touched
I want to
tips.
see everyone calm down.
Yeah. Everyone chill. Just stop. Oh my god. He went for the cheese.
What?
I love this. I don't even care
It's
what
still
happens.
here. This is his best friend now.
I don't care what happens
Go
next.
get him, buddy. Wait.
Nice. Oh my
I don't
god.
Spatial resource is basically some type of object or zone placed by a character. Unlike movement, this aspect of Rivals is almost unseen in Smash. In fact, in Melee, it's just Nana and Link's bombs. And also, this is Yo-Yo Glitch, I guess. But something to keep in mind is that while there is overlap, a spatial resource is not necessarily the same thing as a zoning tool. Clarence Plasma Field, for example, only stops projectiles, so it's actually an anti-zoning tool, but it's a spatial resource. Spatial resources can be used for zoning, like Arcane's Bubbles, Abs's Cloud, Eliana's Steam, but they can also be used for movement, Edalus Ice, Forsburn Smoke, Sylvanas Grass, and they can be used to enhance the punish game, Zedburn's Fire, Maple's Lily, or a third example, but by now, I hope you get the point. The space a character can control or threaten in Rivals is often determined by their unique resources. These types of tools in Rivals force both players to constantly be thinking, not just about where you and your opponent are, but also where the resources are on stage and how they can be used. Having more tools beyond your own positions increases the amount of options you have to interact and influence the spaces you control or have to counter. And all of those resources can work together with your character's other mechanics. If only I had a word for that. This is what ties everything together. Rivals likes to do a lot with a little. Abs's Cloud, when placed, does some damage. It can also be detonated, which also, by the way, stalls Absa in the air. Absa can use it as a third jump. It's also one side of the Thunder line. It can be a time bomb, and Absa can kick it. Movement, zoning, combos, kills. Absa's Cloud can do it all. The depth of options for Absa's Cloud are the direct result of the synergy it has with all of Absa's other mechanics. But spatial resources are not the only gateway to mechanical synergy. Another common design trend you'll see in Rivals characters are unique states. Some states are applied to the user, giving them either new offensive options, defensive options, or some combination of the two. Edalus Armor, Forsburn Smoke charges, Eliana's Overheat. Other states are applied to the opponent, like Clarence Tipper, Zedburn's Burn, Edalus Freeze, Maple's Mark, and Rhino's Poison Stacks. The latter two can actually result in further punishment states, the Wrap and Bubble. Rivals takes all of its mechanics and mixes them together. Maple's Lily is a zoning tool, but with the Mark state, it's also a kill confirm or combo extender. Rhino's Bubble is a recovery tool, or a horrible place you never want to enter ever. Ori's Projectile can be bashed for a mix-up. Spatial resources can lead to movement. Offensive options can lead to spatial resources, which can lead to states, which can lead to movement. And oh my gosh, did I forget to tell you guys that this is a good game? Anything can lead to everything if you're skilled and creative enough. Typically, a Rivals character's special moves are the driving force behind their unique mechanics. Want to spread a lot of ice? Side special. Want to freeze your opponent on that ice? Down special. Want to get armor from ice? Neutral special. In Smash games, special moves are often just another set of hitboxes. And other times, they're just plain useless or extremely situational. But in Rivals, since the special moves are tied directly to the most important mechanics of the character, the entire moveset is almost always required in a match. So how does Rivals prevent all of these options from being a giant mess and overwhelming the player? It does so by centralizing mechanics. Not all options a character has are equal. Some mechanics are more important than others because they are the bridge that connects to those options. Remember Abs's Cloud? You take that away and all the options I mentioned before are gone. Most Rivals characters have a few central mechanics that both the player and the opponent have to work around. So instead of having to master a bunch of things all at once, learning the central mechanic will intuitively intuitively lead the player into learning the rest of a character's abilities. Shovel Knight's Currency, Edelus's Ice for the millionth billionth time, and one of the best examples of this is Eliana's Steam Meter. Her main movement option, her specials, and smash attacks all affect the same meter. Her meter is also what determines what state she's in, so an understanding of this meter is an understanding of her character. If her Steam Meter is full, then she can't fly, she can't use projectiles, she's vulnerable, but at the same time, if she isn't overheated, she can't use her explosive smash attacks. It can sound limiting, like she's dependent on the whims of the meter, but really, constraints like this are what lead to creativity. Figuring out how to spend just the right amount of meter so that Eliana can change states and get a kill with an overheat smash attack is only hype because she has that limitation. It's hype because, like every character in the game, you have to work around the various unique mechanics, not only your own, but also your opponents, navigate and manipulate the space of the stage into your advantage, win neutral, get a cool combo, get a cool kill. Rivals of Aether gives its characters the freedom to travel and control the space of the game in unique ways, and it does so with centralized mechanics that help guide the player into being creative. By thinking outside of the box of the previous platform fighters, Rivals was able to forge a unique identity that still fosters the type of depth that engages the fans of that genre. While Rivals stands on the shoulders of giants, its own core principles are influential in their own right. With the advent of workshop support has come a whole new generation of great characters with fresh mechanics. If you look closely at some of the best workshop characters, the ones that feel like they practically fit into Rivals themselves, you'll see that they have depth because they follow the core principles of Rivals of Aether's character design. And the best part of that is, to have fun with Rivals, you don't really need to know any of that. You don't need to read a bunch of text, you don't have to watch any guides, you can just play the game, and it's able to communicate its depth to you and still be fun. Hey, thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, consider hitting the like button because it helps me with our robo algorithm overlords. And hey, subscribe so you can see my videos in the future. Also, if you really like me and you want to join the names you see on screen now, consider subbing to me on Twitch or supporting me on Patreon. Links are in the description. Thanks again. I'll see you on the flippity flappity.